Welcome to the Not On My Watch podcast, where real-life issues facing the family and the church are addressed with bold and uncompromising truth. It's time to reject the mediocrity of the day, live courageously in the face of danger, and declare, Not On My Watch. Here are your hosts, Jeff and Rochelle Ferguson.
Hey, welcome to the Not On My Watch podcast. We're jumping right in today. Today is episode 101 of the whole podcast, but really our first 101 of what we're really talking about today. And so we've called it Tech Sense 101 and using wisdom to help guide your family, especially with technology. And this is key.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this series of podcasts.
Yes, we've been planning.
I really believe they're going to be resources, they're going to be tools to help parents navigate this crazy world that we're in, this crazy time that we're in, and hopefully equip people out there with wisdom so that they don't feel like they're drowning.
Yes. It's so, I think it's so easy to get there.
Oh, it is.
And
absolutely.
It feels overwhelming. And so sometimes when we're overwhelmed, we just go, meh. And so hopefully these series of podcasts are not overwhelming. They're going to hopefully break down some things, no matter where you are in parenting, grandparenting, or influencing the next generation. If we're talking, well, I don't need to worry about this because I just have toddlers, false. This is something that needs to be really for anybody who's even expecting to have children. This is something to think about all the way up until you're even helping guide adult children. This is for everybody. This podcast for those who are educators, everyone. And so we're going to be talking about some various topics. Today we're going to talk about just our overall philosophy of technology and some of those really there. But I want to give you a preview of what's coming up in the next couple of episodes. The next episode, we're going to talk about cell phones and social media. And I think that's going to be a really fun one.
A lot of people have a lot of questions.
Biggest question is what age to give your kids a cell phone?
Yes.
When do we allow them to be on social media? What social media is okay? We're going to hit all that next episode. Okay. We're going to talk and have a entire episode, I think, that's how it's supposed to, is we're planning it out, talking about pornography.
Oh, my.
The addiction, the inundation of pornography.
The surprising, shocking prevalence.
Yes. And then we're going to also talk about, round it out with internet and video games. So managing technology with the internet and video games, huge topic. And then we want to end with a FAQ episode, so a frequently asked questions. So we've got some of those from some of the viewers who have sent them in, but we want you to participate. So if you're watching this,
please send your questions.
So how do they do it?
What you can do is on any social media, you can message us, whether it's Facebook or whatever social media.
You got our socials.
You got our socials there.
Not
do
our
that.
Security number.
Or you can email us your questions. You can email Rochelle at notonmywatch.co.co or Jeff at notonmywatch.co. We'll respond to that, but it'll help us to prepare so that we can answer your questions as we're researching and putting together these episodes.
Right, or you can drop it right where you're listening if there's a comment box.
In the comments, absolutely.
We will check all of that. So that's kind of the outline of what we're going and what we're doing this. So why is this a big deal? Technology is such a big deal. The largest, when parents have been surveyed, and I want to let you know, just even as we jump into some of these statistics, all the things are going to be found on our show notes, but we've done hours of study, reading, research to get some of these statistics. So this is not just out of our brain or even anecdotal like what we've seen, but this is from multiple sources. But the number one thing that parents say is a stressor to them, maybe compared to when they were parented or for previous generations, is technology.
When I'm in a conversation and we're talking about, hey, what do you want to talk about? Like, the number one thing that I would say almost 100% of people talk about is technology. This is the thing on the top of everyone's mind is how do I navigate technology with my child, grandchild, whatever, the people I'm trying to influence. It has such a hold in our world, in our culture.
And this was not the case a couple of generations ago.
No.
And so this is new territory in some senses. Some of the same old problems or things like that, but this is new territory. We did some research. We're going to give you some statistics even right now. We're not going to hopefully overwhelm you, but it's just important to understand. This is 85% of parents say this is one of the top concerns for them, is their child being safe on the internet and technology. And I think that's important. I'm glad that parents are concerned because there should be concern. This should be something that parents are thinking about.
This is also why this is important is because kids between the ages of 5 and 8, they spend over 3 hours per day on a screen. 3 hours per day on a screen, ages 5 to 8.
Right.
And so when we were talking about that much time and that even young, something we have to talk about. We have to address this.
Right. This is a large portion of their day. And I wonder at times even if that statistic is rising exponentially as time goes on. 90% of kids ages 8 to 16 have been exposed to pornography on the internet. That number is alarming. And it's not all these kids were going to look for it. This is, and we're going to talk about this in the porn episode, but there's a targeted attack on kids. Okay. 65% of kids have been involved in a cyberbullying incident. And so we talk about bullying on the playground, but we're ignoring this bully that comes into your home and you don't even know it.
Oh, that cyberbullying is huge. is I don't know. I hear it all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's everywhere. 50% of 15 to 17-year-olds say that they are on the internet constantly throughout the day, like just all the time, constantly throughout the day. And so here are some of the crazy environment that we're in. I was listening to a podcast and I heard someone, they were talking about the rising technology, and he talked about the moment we're in right now. And he said, the moment we're in right now reminds me of when the internet first appeared onto the scene. And I remember that. I was in high school, and all of a sudden this world, it's like the internet was created. This world opened up, and it was like, wow, at that time, and I mean for good reasons, you could go out and you could research stuff. I was looking for colleges. I remember looking for colleges, and I'm thinking, in just a matter of minutes, I can have 3, 4, 5 colleges looked up. It was amazing. I thought to myself, I can go on the internet.
Now, it took a moment because you had to I don't even know, but you probably could do the sound better.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if anybody picked up the phone line, you were immediately disconnected. That's how old school our internet
But I really
was.
believe we're living in that time. It's a tumultuous time because with the introduction of all this technology, new technology that's coming out all the time, different platforms, different things.
Right.
People find themselves in a state of confusion and overwhelm. And what do I do?
And I think it's paralyzing.
Oh, absolutely.
It can feel paralyzing. Yes. So this is a podcast to help you not be paralyzed by these statistics. To not be like, well, what's the point? My kid's going to be exposed to stuff. It is what it is. No. This is, don't be overwhelmed by these statistics, but we've got to engage with this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's what these series of podcasts are talking about. Kids used to spend many hours outside playing and things like this. And this is being replaced with sedentary watching of screens and being engaged. And this is leading to health ramifications, mental ramifications. I mean, I'm not even sure we understand all of it yet. I mean, the research is out there, but even do we know what, all of this social media, all the various things, are going to do long term to people.
Well, and you've heard us talk about before on other episodes of how tech executives do not allow their children to be exposed to some of the tech that they are actually inventing because they know
and marketing to everybody else's children.
Marketing to everybody else's children because they know the health concerns. So what we are seeing is a health crisis. When I say health, I mean physical, mental, spiritual,
right,
all around health crisis because of technology. I will say this, because of an improper use.
Right.
Of technology.
So this is important that you come. We're going to let you know a little bit about our philosophy. We are not separatists.
We're not, no.
And you could probably guess that because you're watching us on a screen. Like we spend a lot of even time, effort, and energy into podcasting. This is our 101th episode. 101st.
101st.
There you go. And so we are not anti-technology. We are not separatists. In fact, all of our children have computers of their own.
Yes.
We have the internet at our home. We have Wi-Fi. There are things that we have. You could text me because I have a cell phone.
I have a cell phone. Computer,
there are things
yes,
that we are not separatists. There's a group who are like rising, and I don't even hardly blame them. They're saying, you know what, we're going old school. We're going back pen and paper. We're doing this. That's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is not to separate from this. But our on the other hand, our philosophy is not just to embrace everything without limits or boundaries.
That's a good point.
And so what you will hear here is a I don't want to say middle ground because middle ground sounds.
We're not neutral.
We're not neutral.
Technology. We have very, very definitive opinions
that have been based in research.
Yes, absolutely.
And God's word, of course,
absolutely.
Because we're here to raise kids who love the Lord and who want to serve Him in every area, including their technology usage. And not just them, but that we would serve the Lord in our technology use. And so that's where we're coming from. That's our philosophy. And so that's what's going to be an overarching theme in all of these podcasts. But I also want to, for those who are jumping in, like this is you're like, okay, great. I have 100 episodes I missed because this is the first one I've checked in because somebody shared this with me about technology. And so for you who are jumping in and you don't know who Jeff and Rochelle are, like for me, I'm not going to listen to somebody who I don't know if they've walked the walk, talked the talk, or have the background. So we want to share a little bit about that with you today. We have been working with students and parents in a nonprofit church setting role, but also some other settings like education and some various other settings that we'll talk about as well.
Yes.
For over 20 years, consistently with no breaks. And we bring that experience here to the podcast.
And I think the interesting thing about that experience, 20 years, because it spans that much, we have seen the transition from lower technology environments to higher technology environments. We remember a day in ministry where there really were no cell phones.
Yeah, like we remember that.
We remember that. I mean, and
kids did not have cell phones when we first began ministering to young people as youth pastors.
It was just didn't happen.
They did not. I mean, their parents might have had cell phones, but they did not have them.
Now you come into a ministry environment, everybody's looking for an outlet where they can put their charger because they need it. That didn't exist when we first came into ministry.
Right. So we've seen this progress.
We've seen the
I don't know if I'll say progress, but at least the progression of time, we've seen that change.
And I've seen the benefits of both environments, most definitely. I could say, technology has served us well in a lot of areas, and I can see sometimes I long to, in some respects,
to go back to some of that low tech.
I do long to go back to that low tech where there are problems that did not exist.
Right, but with this change over the 20 years, what you're going to hear in this podcast, what we're coming from is seeing in real life situations, the problems have changed. And some of them have grown with ramifications.
Yeah. Yes.
And, especially when we're dealing with young people who are still maturing,
Mm-hmm.
they at times, some may feel that they know everything, that all the dangers, but they don't. That's why they're set in families. God set the family up for very specific reasons. And so we've seen that progression. But I also want to let you know that we work with, we aren't absent from hands-in daily with people. That I think that's important to know.
We have sat across tables from parents who've come and just absolutely said, help.
Oh, they've been devastated. I honestly wish everybody could find themselves in that situation, because it will change your perspective.
Yes.
If you actually love people, it will change your perspective. It will change how you view some of these technology modes when you really understand the hurt and the heartache that it can bring to families as a whole.
And so we've had to firsthand navigate through the sheer horror, the sheer hurt that comes from a misuse, improper, ungodly use of technology. And so we've seen it on people's faces. We're not just pontificating about something that we're or conjecturing. We've actually had to navigate that with people.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so some of the things that we're going to be, that's what we're coming with.
Yes.
And I, again, if you're new to if you're a longtime listener, you know this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I love you. I'm so partner with us. Absolutely. But if you are a new to the podcast listener, I want to let you know, this is partly what I did my entire master's degree, capstone, like it's a smaller version of a dissertation on, talking about the effects of social media technology on the next generation, on Gen Z and Alpha generation. And so this is where we're coming from.
Yes.
This is research-based, also real-life-based, also all of those things. So I just want you to know that, like, this isn't just some lady and this guy that are just
Who's that
throwing out ideas, okay? You may think that after this, but hopefully you hear a whole lot of really research-based in the Word of God, in studies, and also real life.
Yeah, and
examples.
Technology impacts every family, whether you have the most stringent controls or not. I mean, we've talked in, almost every person who comes said, but I've had the controls on. And so, technology is no respecter of persons in that regard. So I want to just hit that.
So much to say about the controls,
yeah.
But I'm going to control my response because the parental control topic episode will not be right now. I'm sorry. I'm literally having to discipline myself.
I didn't mean to
you
dangle that out there. Sorry.
I want to even as we jump in, we're in. I don't know why I keep saying jump in. We're in. I guess it's because I know there's so many more episodes to come. But I want to share a quote with you. John Acuff is a Christian writer. He writes a lot of books. You can check him out. I follow him on social media. He's fun. He's super
hilarious.
Funny. But he is a parent of some young adult children. And he wrote this quote the other day, and I'm like, I resonate with this. Like,
oh, so good.
It is so good. So I want to read it. I'm reading this, but it's him talking because it says as a dad, which... If you know, I'm a mom and only women can be moms. Okay, so as a dad of an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, the longer you can keep your kids analog, the better life goes. Low-tech kids dominate in their 20s because unlike their peers, they're not addicted to porn, online gambling, shopping, or social media comparison. The world will say you're weird. Good. Be weird.
Oh, I love that.
I'm like, I need to frame that. I love that. That was such a great quote. We'll tag John Acuff in this. on social media. I think I'm one of his top fans because I loved the quote as many times as I could.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding. Yes, amen, preach it.
Maybe we should have labeled this series Be Weird because,
Maybe we should.
I don't know.
No,
anyway.
I don't think so. I think this is Check Sense 101
Yes,
because
you're right.
we're coming in with what to do and the research behind it. But the reality is, if you love and care about your kids, if you love and care about the next generation, if you're an educator and you love and care about the next generation, you will at least do the research.
Yes.
And you will pray and you will do plans and you will do the work that we're about to talk about before you just pass off all the technology and say good luck to your kids.
Yeah.
And what John Acuff was saying here is that you're trying to produce an environment where your kids can you're not insulating them. You're not,
it's impossible.
You're not going to do it. You're not going to
Yes.
snowplow the road for your kids,
Yep.
but you're also not going to give them a shovel and say, hey, dig your own hole.
Yes.
You're going to help them. And if I am making a very bold statement here and I stand behind it, send the hate mail. Go ahead. If you give your kids a cell phone or access to the internet through video games with random people all around the world or whatever, if you do that without any instruction and training and modeling and sitting with them and making sure that their character is formed, if you do that without doing that, you are doing your kids, it's abuse. You're doing your kids a disservice. And guess I know that was so strong.
Well, it's strong, but we are addressing a strong topic. We are addressing a topic that's literally claiming the lives of young people, and it's almost as if
we're acting like we have no control over
it's almost as if we don't have control over it, or we don't care, or we that's just going to happen anyway. And I will say, I don't think that has to happen.
Now, I really want to go back to what I just said because it was super strong. I did not say if you give your kids a cell phone, you're abusing them.
No,
I said if you give your kids a cell phone without the proper things that we're going to talk about here.
Yes.
Like training, instruction, leading, guiding, and then eventually giving that to them on their own. If you skip all these steps,
you're not equipping them. You are disarming them.
And that doesn't mean, I'm a horrible person. No, guess what? You repent and then you say, guess what? This is painful, but we're going back here before I've done all this here.
Yeah.
We've got to, it's okay to say you were wrong and to repent to your kids. That does not mean that that's going to be an easy road. But I don't want this podcast, people to listen and go, well, I missed it. I didn't do it. And so therefore it's over.
But what
There's
you
ways
said
to go.
is so powerful that if people were to be bold and courageous enough to do it, it would drastically change things. What we're talking about as we begin talking about technology is controlling us, is controlling our character before we worry about the technology out there. We're going to get to that, but if we're not living it, our kids aren't. If we're not modeling, our kids will not. And so what you just said is huge there because it's focused on us paying attention to our own backyard in our life so that we're equipped to help our kids.
Yes. So I've alluded to it, so here it is. This is the framework for technology. Now, really, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's not really a secret. This is our framework for parenting.
Yes.
And we are using that exactly here with technology because it doesn't change. It's a framework that can go over every area. And tech just happens to be the area we're talking about here on the podcast. Okay, so we have a 4-step pattern framework. I don't know what
it's. I think it's a kind of a philosophy framework. It's not a microwavable. You do this, and your kids are going to pop out and be. It's not
like this. Isn't about 7 days to a new kid.
Absolutely,
which there's
it's just a framework for parenting, but also and it overlays every area, including technology. And it's just four steps. Okay, and I want to even say 4 easy steps because there's no such thing as easy when it comes to parenting. And the first one, can we launch into that?
Can we just say them all 4 real quick and then go through it? Okay,
yes.
So number 1, instructing. Number 2, training. Number 3, guiding. And number 4, launching.
Yes.
Okay, so it's real quick. Instructing, training, guiding, launching. Okay, so what does that mean? So Instructing, step one. In every area, there is an instruction. Kids, if you study like growth, if you study maturation of children, I was educated as an educator, like literally. I went to school, and one of the degrees that I received was middle secondary education with an emphasis on middle school, junior high brains. Okay.
Oh,
like,
that sounds interesting.
It is so interesting, and it's that move from concrete to abstract. And it's not like, at the age of 11 it happens. No, like it is a process.
Yes.
And hopefully everybody gets there. Like, and it's just not guaranteed. Like, we go from really concrete to abstract to being able to so that's why when you have a little toddler and there's a cup of coffee, you say hot. Like, you tell them this is hot, don't touch it. Or like a stove, it's hot. But when there's abstract, as they move, as they grow and they mature, they are able to see that like not all coffee cups are hot. It's the liquid within it. It's like being able to reason and to problem solve and to make.
But this is how you said it. The human brain learns. There is a basis of instruction.
And that's what you do. So we do this with toddlers. Like, we do this all the time with certain things. We say, the street is busy. Don't cross the street. Like, we instruct, we tell kids how to do things. And this is the framework for technology. This isn't just like, once you hit age 5, then you go on to training. No, like, I don't know all of the ages for particular things. We can sit there and do that. But that's not really what this is. You can't skip number 1 and just go to number 2.
Right.
You can't skip the instructing and then just go to training. Like, instructing has to be there. There has to be verbal instruction.
And instruction begins like you said, long before we hand kids their first whatever device. Instructing is not, I'm about ready to buy a Christmas present, an iPhone for my kid. I need to come up with an agreement. That's not instructing.
Right, it's like that's well before that happens.
Before that.
That's the launching. We haven't gotten there yet. That's
it.
Step 4.
Right.
The instruction. It's not like, hey, cool, we got you a new computer. Let me help you set it up, and then that's not instructing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how to use wisdom with technology. So. In instructing, guess what? There are things that we even say, this is right and this is wrong. But if we don't tell kids that, we're leaving it up to chance that they will discover that. So we're going to talk about this in cell phones, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead. You'll hear it probably throughout. But there is a phenomenon, and it's not a positive one. It is so on the rise. It is commonplace for kids to ask other kids to send them nudes. And you're like, what? Yeah, it's called nudes. Nudes. Okay.
I'm not.
No.
It's crazy.
So literally, this is very, very common. Send me a picture of you in the nude, like naked or dressing seductive. Like, send it to me. Literally, this happens. There are drop boxes that are created with literally like an entire class, like the class of 2028 or whatever, trying to get every person in there nude. And then like they hand out the public link for anybody to see this. Okay, so this is happening. I would say research it, but don't, because if you do, like, bad stuff will come up. So I'm just saying trust that this is really happening, and it is. Okay, so you say, well, of course, every kid should know this is wrong.
But they don't.
You have to tell.
I don't want to jump ahead.
You have to tell. Like, these are literal things that I'm speaking as an experienced parent who has done this. And I literally have had the conversation. Like, this is what might happen. People do this. Like, I used instruction. So it's not like, how do you set up your phone? It's, hey, this is what some people use the internet for. This is what some people use technology for. This is wrong.
our kids need to hear us say that. They need to be instructed into knowing what's right and what's wrong in no uncertain terms, because they can't think abstractly yet. In fact, I would say there's a lot of people who feel that the online world is not even real. I may send a picture, a naked picture, but I really didn't do it because that's online.
Or like I just typed something. I didn't say it.
I didn't say it.
No. This is where instructing is
Yes.
instructing. Like what you say online, typing, FaceTiming, it's all real. It's as if you're doing this here.
Yes. And our kids right now who are digital natives, they don't know any other world other than the digital world. They need parents who know something about this to instruct them in that this is a real world, that the online world is dangerous, and it's a real, whatever you do, whether you type it or say it, same thing.
Well, and let's do it from the positive too. Like this is, we do this in real life interaction. Like, hey, little Susie, these are real things that parents should be doing. Hey, when you go and meet this person, I want you to say, hi, my name is Susie. Nice to meet you. Like it's instructing them on how to have a face-to-face conversation. We should be instructing with technology how to have a digital conversation. Like what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. These are things. This is instruction.
Yeah, that's good. That's really
good. So
good.
this is a framework. Again, we do step one, we instruct. And once we feel
that it takes time. It takes time.
Like, and once we feel, okay, there's been adequate instruction about this, then we move on to step number 2, which is training. I love training. I always think of when I was trained at a job.
It's hands-on. It's I think of on the job. You're right, on the job training, because you're going from, in my mind, you're going from maybe a classroom setting in some respects. Your information's coming in. Now you're training. Now information's not just coming in. Although it is, you're also doing something with that information. You're putting it to use. You're testing it out under supervision. Under supervision, right?
Right. So, like, we're about ready to have, help me, Lord, a student, a child in our home, a young adult, who will be receiving their driver's permit. We are not far from this.
When you said that, the room just started spinning. I'm sorry.
Are you okay? Let me feel your head. Okay. So this is the same. Like, I'm going to use this example because we think of this example. There is training that is involved. Like, I'm not just going to say, like, here's the keys to this expensive car. Go do whatever. No, like.
I trust you.
I just don't trust all the other people. Okay, now, so there's going to be instructing, like, hey, even now, when we do not yet have a permitted driver, I tell my child, like, hey, this is why I do this. Like, sometimes, even as we're driving, like, not all the time, that'd be really annoying, but sometimes, okay. But then the training happens. This is where, like, hey, her first go around in driving my vehicle is not going to be on the road. We're going to a parking lot. We're going to a big church or school parking lot on a Sunday afternoon when nobody's there. And there's only a few light poles that could be hit. And we're going to practice going around in circles and putting the car into park and drive and turning it on and off. This is training. Yep,
that's training. I like that idea, that mind picture of what training is. And then we move on to the next phase.
Right. Can I say one?
I'm always wanting to move quicker. Sorry. That's good. That's not good.
No, I'm saying with technology, how this would work would be like, hey, let me show you how I use mine. And, hey, like my cell phone. Hey, you could use this. Why don't you send a few texts for me?
Yep.
Or, hey, you could text this person. Let them know that you're on my phone. And let them get a taste of that.
That's really good.
And then you don't just absolutely I didn't look at it. You look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what training could
Teaching
look like.
them how to text.
Or
that's really good.
We're doing we're going to watch a movie. Like, this is technology. We're going to watch a movie. Hey, let's do this together. What do you think? What do you think would be a good one? Okay.
Yes.
Number 3, guiding.
Guiding with every level, we get a little bit less involved. We give a little bit more autonomy, more freedom.
Yes.
Because they're getting older, they're getting hopefully more mature, and as they get mature, we're kind of loosening the reins a little bit so that they can experience what we've instructed, what we've trained, and now guiding.
Right.
As far as here are the parameters, right? And, go for it.
Okay, so like guiding, I really think that there's a lot of it with training, but it's just more of them doing. Mm-hmm. More of them doing, less of me doing. More of them making decisions, less of me making decisions. Just maybe more of me going, hey, what do you think about that? Like, do you agree with that? What do you think? Not controlling.
Yep.
But under, I don't know, I guess just guidance, supervision, but not hovering.
Yeah.
And I don't think this only just applies with cell phones. This applies with internet usage, what you search on the internet, things that you choose to do. Some things, I'm going back to instruction, they're just off limits. They're just a no. Like, we don't ever do that.
Can't do it. Yep.
We don't ever do that because there's nothing beneficial with this. But with guiding, it's more of, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to be there.
And you said we asked the question, what do you think? And I want to point out, we cannot ask the question, what do you think, unless there's first been foundations laid of instruction and training. Because they don't know what to think if they haven't been instructed, if they haven't been trained. They don't know. They're literally, again, going back, our brains aren't ready to ask the what do you think, to answer the what do you think questions if we first don't have the information to pull upon.
Right.
And so I think people are like, hey, let's talk about this when we first haven't laid that groundwork, which is, so going back to instructing and training is huge if we want to properly and effectively guide them.
Right. And then it ends with step number 4, launching.
Yes.
And that is, hey, I think a lot of this probably is when there is even a launching into adulthood or things like that. But it's kind of like, hey, here you go. We've done our best. We've seen progress. We've seen this in the instructing, training, and guiding. And so we feel ready to launch you into making these decisions on your own. Now, I want to be really clear on our overarching philosophy of this. This is not age-based. So sometimes we can go, well, I said that my kid could get a smartphone by the time they're 15. So whatever happens, we're launching them at 15.
I promised him, so I have to stick with that.
Or the other sibling got it at 17, or the other one got it at 11. So we're going to just launch them regardless of whether we've gone through here. These are steps that cannot be skipped, and they can't just be coasted through. There has to be a mastering of these
Yes.
steps. And so what I mean is, you may have to go backwards. You may have to, okay, we got to guiding and some decisions were made. We're going to head back to step 1 because we lost something here. And so these aren't always progressive, like, oh, we got there. Sometimes we have to revisit them.
They're not age-based, and they're based upon, I think, our values, biblical values. They're based upon our children. They're not based upon what everybody else's children are doing. I say this because I hear this a lot.
No, that's so right.
Help me, because
my
all
kid's
of my
the only
kids'
one. Yeah.
friends are they're the only one, and as parents, we could feel like I don't want them to be so excluded. We cannot parent our children in light of how other people are parenting theirs. We have to give our children what they've learned, what they're able to handle, and with the parameters that we've decided, not somebody else has decided. So
yes.
that is huge. Do not let the pressure, the surrounding pressure of the culture, make you do something before you should do it.
Right, and I think it's also the pressure.
Yeah,
absolutely, but also our own personal convenience.
Oh, this is a big one.
It is inconvenient. It's inconvenient to go through this framework of parenting.
Very much.
It's inconvenient. it would be so much more convenient just to launch them on out and say, I believe in you. Like, the consequences will be great, but the convenience momentarily could be enticing.
Let me ask you a question, because I have no clue about this. Wasn't pregnancy inconvenient?
You do know. Because you probably heard me complain.
I know, but I don't know. Yes. I don't know personally, because I've never carried a child. I'm just saying,
yes,
the very idea of being a parent carrying a child is excruciatingly so inconvenient.
Right, but I know people, and we try to find the road of least resistance.
You're exactly right.
Like, we always try. Like, it's so much easier just to put my toddler in front of the YouTube because Mama needs her me time.
Well, it is easier. It's easier.
But if you choose to do this, you are setting yourself and your child up for hardship in the future. Like, and we're going to talk about this with, internet and video games and social media, but kids, and especially we're going to talk about like toddler, like what's age appropriate and things. I know, like I said, I wasn't talking about ages, but we are like, kids should not be sat in front of YouTube if they're not engaging in play and indoor play, outdoor play, all of that thing. I mean, we are literally damaging their development.
Their very development.
And you can see kids, there's even studies that show this, this is in the show notes, that consistent exposure to online, I mean, literally has an effect on the physical body, like shaking and things like that. So, man, this is so important. And the research is there. We're just choosing to ignore it.
Yes.
And so if nothing else, this Not On My Watch podcast, if you're listening to it, it's like you can't ignore it now because you've been told. Like, there are real things. And so that's our overarching philosophy of technology. And we're really going to get into some of the things about social media, video games, porn, nudes. We're going to talk about it.
I never thought I would have to talk about that, but this is a real thing, and
so much more prevalent than you know.
Oh, absolutely. And
I guarantee you do not know how prevalent it is.
And some of you thinking right now, this sounds exhausting. This sounds hard. It's hard. It's exhausting. But can I tell you that when we launch appropriately, we will launch effectively.
This will change your kids' lives.
Oh,
I'm serious.
Goodness. Yes.
In their teen years, but also in their 20s and 30s, which will in turn change your own life. Because you're not having to deal with some of these things. I'm serious. This is such a pivotal, the decisions that are made in childhood and young adulthood will literally shape the rest of your life.
Yes.
So help your kids. Help them. I would just implore you, listen to these following episodes. If you have a question, send it to us.
Yes, please send it to us.
Share this with people. Share this with your kids. Share this. This is so important.
I'm excited for the rest of the series. I'm excited to talk about some of these things. I'm excited to answer and get to some of your questions. This is going to be a good, few episodes. Heavy, but really, hopefully, informative, and it's very good. So keep your questions coming.
It was so hard to not get into some of the stuff we're talking about. I don't even know if I was successful. We'll find out.
We'll get to that later. But until then, we will see you right here in the next episode of the Not On My Watch podcast.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Not On My Watch podcast. You are a watchman for this time and hour. Don't forget to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you listen. If you haven't already, head on over to our website, www.notonmywatch.co, for more resources from Jeff and Rochelle. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on the next episode. But until then, keep watchful.